We are here to do our General Assembly 2026 preview. For those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting virtually or in person yet, my name is Lakeisha Cook. You can call me Keisha. I am the very proud executive director of Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. And again, we're really excited that you're here with us on tonight. We're excited to share some information with you about what we're working on for this coming session. And so we're going to go over some information about our policy priorities that we're working on, and also even share some of the supporting issues that we're looking at for the upcoming session. We are still finalizing some of the issues that we're supporting, so we don't have a ton of information about our supporting issues, but we at least want to give you an idea of some things that are on our radar. And so we're going to share this information with you, and then there'll be an opportunity for you to ask us some questions, and we'll make sure we give you some resources that you can use to prepare yourself for the upcoming session. So again, we're excited to have you here with us on tonight. I'm excited to have my team here with me tonight. They're going to introduce themselves as they bring their voices into the space. We also have some staff members who are on tonight who are not a part of our policy team. So we just want to say, hey to Tanya. You're not going to be able to hear her voice, but Tanya Doles is our development manager, and she's here in virtual space. And so we're just glad to have her with us. And so as we're getting started on tonight, if you are unfamiliar with who we are Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. We do our work to make sure that we're engaging people of faith and goodwill to advocate for racial, social, and economic justice in Virginia in their policy and practices through education, prayer, and advocacy. So we're all about resourcing people and getting people engaged in civic engagement. And so beyond just voter registration, mobilizing people to then get out and vote. And then once we vote people into office, holding them accountable to do the work of the people. And so our state legislature is starting to get prepared to go into their General Assembly session. And so we just want to share a little information about this upcoming General Assembly. So this says General Assembly 2025. That's not true. It's actually General Assembly 2026. So we need to fix this slide. This was from the slide from last year, but the rest of the information is correct. So the session is set to start on January 14th. Our General Assembly sessions always start the second Wednesday of January, and it just depends on how the year falls. Sometimes that second Wednesday is near the earlier part of the month, sometimes it's the middle of the month, and next year is just one of those moments where it's falling in the middle of the month. So we're starting on January 14th. Because it's an even year, it's 2026, not 2025 like the slide says, but 2026, an even year, it's going to be a 60-day session. And so 60 days to do work of the people. Thousands of bills need to be read, voted on, and some action taken on them. So it's going to be a very fast pace, not as fast as last year's 45-day session, but 60 days is still pretty tight. So 60-day session. And so if you want to find out information about some bills that have already been posted, a really good resource is our legislative information system. We call it LIS. If you go to that website, you're able to see some of the bills that have already been filed. And so it's really great information that's there. And there's also some valuable information on the next website that's listed. It's our new and improved Virginia General Assembly website. So if you go to that website, it will actually also give you a link to connect you to the LIS where you can look at all those great bills that are already posted, but it also has information about how you find your legislator. It's just all kind of great information on both of these websites. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about how to use these tools, we have another session coming up that you can join us for. It's our Advocacy 101. So our Advocacy 101 session is actually going to be on December 18th at 6 p.m. And so you can either scan this QR code, it could take you directly to registering for this course, or Kenneth has dropped the link in the chat. You can go to this link. You can sign up to take this course with us. We'll walk through some of these great tools so that you'll be all prepared when General Assembly session is set to start on January 14th. In addition to that, you can sign up to get action alerts from us. An action alert really is an email that we send out to people who, when their bills are coming up and either your legislator is sitting on the committee or there's a floor vote about to happen and we need you to take action. We need you to contact your legislator and tell them, hey, I want you to vote for or against this. We send you an email. It's an already written text that is provided for you. You can customize that, or you can go with the text that we give you, and then we can flood the legislators with emails telling them the actions that we want them to take. And so this is a really great advocacy tool. And so we just need you to sign up so you make sure that you get the email. So based off of your address, we know who your delegate and your senator are, and we'll be able to send the action alerts to you. And so great tool. So again, if you're interested in this, you can scan this QR code, you can go to the tiny URL that's listed, or you can also click on the link that was placed in the chat for you. So again, we're just trying to give you all the tools that we can possibly give you so that you can stay connected to us. And so now that we've given you some tools, now we want to talk about our policy priority areas. Here at Virginia Interfaith, for this coming session, our bills are falling into four bucket areas or context areas in which we're working in. So we have criminal justice reform, we have health equity, we have economic justice, and we have affordable housing. And so our staff in that order is going to come and share some information with you about bills that we're working on. If you have questions, you can put your questions in the chat. And so once we get done with each section, what I'll do is we'll check the chat and we'll see what questions have come up and we'll provide the information that we can. I also want to note here, we do have our fact sheets that have been placed on our website. And so we're starting to populate our General Assembly section on our website with some information. So you can find all of our policy priorities, you can find our fact sheets there. And I will plug that we're about to have a new website, coming in 2 weeks. And so you'll be able to see and find things even easier. But those resources are there for you. But we want to make sure, again, that we're giving you some general information about the bills that we're working on. So we're going to start with our criminal justice reform. And so I'm going to invite Terry to bring her voice in.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Terry Irwin. I work with Kenneth Hunter, also on the screen, on a campaign for higher education in prison to increase access to post-secondary education in the Virginia Department of Corrections system. Our bill is still a little bit under construction, but the 3 key points that will be involved entail encouraging the establishment of college programs in all of the major facilities of the Virginia Department of Corrections to increase access, the creation of a multi-agency advisory group to oversee and collaborate on expansion and improving the post-secondary education made available to Virginians who are in our prison system. And the bill will also require the Department of Corrections to become a member of the Virginia Longitudinal Data System, which enables research on the long-term program impacts of education and employment.
I'm sorry, Terry, were you finished?
I'm finished.
Okay. All right. I'm going to come on in, Kenneth.
Hello, how are you? I am Kenneth Hunter, and I do work with Terry on our initiative to expand access to college programs, but also other work that we're interested in supporting is we're continuing to support the restoration of rights for the formerly incarcerated and those convicted of felonies. Of course, we passed this. This is a constitutional amendment that will require passage through House and Senate, and then an election in between. We've had those 2 steps and we will be seeing again this year it brought up and in hopes of getting it passed and putting it on our ballots in November. So we will continue to support those efforts to expand voting rights for this particular demographic of the community. We're also working on or supporting, I should say, with the Pretrial Justice Coalition that we are honored to be a part of, Counsel at First Appearance, which is specifically advocating that individuals would have counsel or attorney representation at their very first appearance in court. Right now, that is not something that happens. You often go to court without an attorney, and this leads to more often than not extended jail sentences or time in jail where there is loss of housing, educational opportunities, and the like. And so this bill will make it so there's an attorney there from the beginning to present some of to prevent some of that collateral damage. We also are working on fines and fees, which deals with not weaponizing the economic situation of those most impacted by the justice system. Folks are usually of minimal resources, so fines and fees affect them in ways that it may not affect their wealthier counterparts. So we're looking to reduce those fines and fees and come up with more with alternative ways to hold folks accountable when they find themselves within the justice system. And that is basically the sum of the bills that we're going to be supporting this year in terms of criminal justice reform.
Thanks so much, Kenneth. If anybody has any questions about criminal justice reform bills, if you want to put it in the chat. Again, these are the bills that we are prioritizing and bills that we're supporting. As we're getting more information and finalizing patrons and bill numbers, that information will be provided. Okay, so Terry, the question, what is VLDS? Can you provide a little more information about that?
I sure can. So the Virginia Longitudinal Data System is a confederation of state agencies, housing and employment and a variety of other state agencies that Virginians interact with over the course of their life. The longitudinal nature of the data system means that it would allow someone, for example, to find me, Terry Ann Irwin, in my first appearance in the Virginia Department of Education database when I attended elementary school, track me all the way through college, and then pop over to data connected to the unemployment system and capture me when I become employed within the state of Virginia. It allows researchers to look at kind of like earlier life causes and later life outcomes. And we want to make sure that people who are captured in our justice system are also represented and available to that their data, their educational data specifically, would be available for researchers who wanted to understand things like K-12 educational impacts on and college and prison on subsequent employment. I hope that is helpful for understanding the value of the Virginia Longitudinal Data System, the VLDS.
Good evening, everybody. I am Catherine Haynes, and I am the Health Equity Manager, and I will cover 4 bills that Virginia Interfaith and one of them, the Push Coalition, are leading on, and then a couple that we are supporting. So the first one is familiar to everybody. It is bias reduction training for those licensed by the Board of Nursing and Board of Medicine. The Board of Nursing was not included in the version that everybody is familiar with because we didn't have kind of the technical language. Bills can get very complex. But I think we figured out how to include the Board of Nursing. That was always the goal of the coalition, since nurses can be the first point of contact, and we have incredible support from the nurses. And we are also using the term bias reduction instead of implicit bias. And that kind of brings in all the different strategies, including implicit bias, that can help reduce bias in healthcare. But implicit bias will be required because it has a unique impact on healthcare and specifically racial disparities. Expanding access to midwives. This bill it's not a bill, it is a budget amendment and is language only. And it will direct DMAS, the Department of Medicaid Assistance Services, and the Virginia Department of Health, or VDH, to bring together all the stakeholders, the midwives, the impacted moms, insurance companies, hospitals, to address the fact there are multiple barriers that prevent a mom in cardinal care, which is a Virginia Medicaid, from staying with her chosen or their chosen managed care organization. And what that means is if you have to leave your managed care organization, then you lose all the benefits, diapers, cell phones. They're really, MCOs are offering a lot of benefits to this population that needs that extra support. And losing those benefits does not make sense. So the work group would figure out how we can make sure that every mom that would like to choose a midwife can do that, even if they are in an MCO plan through Medicaid. The next one, and I forgot for the bias bill, we already have a number, so I should mention that. It's Senate Bill 22, and Senator Locke is the lead on that. And this also has a number if you want to look it up. It is Senate Bill 33. And this bill is a bill that, Virginia Interfaith has had a lot of interest from its base on school nurses, and it can take a couple of years to figure out how to address the topic. And given the very limited funding, this seemed like an easy way to uplift critical providers in schools in a Dillon state, which basically just means that you must have explicit direction at the state level to do something at the local level. What will happen at the local level is because registered nurses and advanced practice registered nurses are really specified as important providers in schools, it can be hard for a local school board to include them in their budget. So this makes it very explicit. It defines what RNs and APRNs, it specifically lists them and as very important to physical and mental health for students. And we hope that will increase the uptake of RNs and APRNs in schools that need that extra support. And the final bill that we are leading on is really a bill to get moms into prenatal care. As some of you may know, I used to practice as a midwife. I've also had close family involvement with Child Protective Services. And I will tell you that if you want to support the mother, baby, and follow what is best practice, right? So the research shows that a punitive approach just it does not work. And what happens is that moms avoid prenatal care. And this was true when I practiced as a midwife, and I reached out to a number of our connections, especially in Southwest Virginia. And no surprise, this is still a problem. I actually had someone text me the other day that they had a baby at the hospital and they had taken the baby away, and they're trying to figure out how to get the baby back. So this really centers the mom, does not allow blanket cord blood testing, which is a way to then trigger a Child Protective Service consideration, and just really affirming the mother-baby support so that we can have healthier babies. And
Catherine, can you say a little bit about what you mean by dyad? Is a question in the chat.
Yes, and that, so the midwifery model of care, and I won't go into that, but we see the mom and baby as one. You really cannot separate them. Interestingly enough, there's been groundbreaking research now that midwives have known for, forever, that if you put the baby right on mom skin to skin right after the delivery, that the baby regulates him or herself. So a baby that might have some issues and might be struggling will settle down and regulate, which then does not stress the baby, and you'll have better outcomes just by being on mom's chest. So it's mother-baby dyad. It's the pair. It means you are always looking, you cannot separate them. And that's what the literature shows, that what's good for mom and baby is good for, they might need support. That's important. But supporting the mom and baby together, you have the best outcomes. In the US healthcare system, we tend to always, and even in the code, we separate the two. you have mom over here and baby over here. In this particular section of the code we're amending, the mother doesn't even exist. It's just the newborn. So that's problematic. And then a couple of the bills, we always support the HAVE Coalition, which we have been a member of for a very long time. We worked with them, if you will remember, to lead Medicaid expansion, which HAVE was the lead coalition in that work. And so this year, I'll point out two HAVE Coalition priorities that we are supporting, and that is protecting Medicaid, which, as you know, that was Virginia Interfaith was very involved in that, and I know our members are very concerned because of the HR1 and the threat to Medicaid. So we don't know exactly what that means right now because the General Assembly is figuring that out. But we will support protecting Medicaid, shoring up at the state level, given the federal removal of funds. The second one is safety net facilities. And given the restriction of Medicaid funds, community health centers and free clinics are quickly moving to fill that gap. We hear that they are, many times overwhelmed because if you know you can't go to the provider that you lost your Medicaid benefits, you can go to the free clinic, and they really catch everybody, insured or not. And so we need to support the safety net, the free clinics, and the community health centers while we figure out how to address the fallout from what is happening at the federal level. And then the final priority is not it didn't receive enough votes because there's a voting process. But because Virginia Interfaith has always worked to expand healthcare coverage to kids. You'll remember we worked on the healthcare for all kids the past 2 years, at least the past 2 years. So that is our continuing of the work to expand access to children who are the most vulnerable. If we have healthy kids, they'll grow into healthy adults. And Virginia, interestingly enough, we have one of the lowest federal poverty law eligibility limits. So you can be poor, especially if you have a large family, and you wouldn't qualify for Medicaid. So that increasing it to 300% of federal poverty level, that brings us more in line with other states that did that years ago. And that is it.
Thanks, Catherine. Are there any other questions about the bills that she shared? I know we gave a lot of information, and again, the fact sheets are online. But if you have any questions about the bills, you can drop them in the chat. And then there'll be a time for questions later too. Catherine, you explained it so well. There are no questions. I love it. All right, we're gonna go on to our next. Ramon.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. I'm Ramon Cepeda Ramos, the Economic Justice Organizer with VICPP. So I'm here to talk about paid sick days. This is a bill that has been read and voted on for more than 8 years, as you all probably have seen it over the years. We continue to make this a priority because there's still 1.2 million workers in Virginia. That's 41% of the private sector workforce that don't have any paid time off, no paid sick days or any other paid time off. So that creates a crisis for low-wage workers and working families in particular that must choose between a paycheck and their health or sending their kids to school sick or being able to stay home and take care of their loved ones. But yeah, instead of, focusing on that problem, I also want to just mention that there's been a lot of momentum and a lot of possibilities that have been successful. For example, thanks to the advocacy work, we've been able to get paid sick days for 30,000 home healthcare workers in 2021. And there's many more states that have continued to implement paid sick leave, paid sick days laws. So we know that there's also almost 60% of private sector employers that do provide some paid time off, some sort of paid leave. And this paid sick day standard would make it so that all workers in Virginia can have up to 4 paid sick days. And those employers that already provide a benefit could just qualify, could just update their policies to provide paid sick leave. Also, we are very hopeful that with a new governor and new legislators, that we can really carry this bill to the end. Last session in 2025, we passed both chambers, the House and the Senate. Unfortunately, the current governor vetoed it. So we hope that next session we can get it again to the governor's desk and get it signed. And just briefly to mention, paid sick days is also part of a larger pie. We also support paid family medical leave, paid time to care for all workers, whether it's a few days or weeks or months. But paid sick days is the bill that we prioritize at VICPP. So do stay alert for actions and petitions on this bill as it moves forward.
Ramon, there's a question in the chat. Who are the sponsors for the bill?
Thank you for the question. Delegate Converse Fowler has carries House Bill 5 for the 2026 session. So that's what we have, and it's identical to the bill that passed in 2025. And we're in conversation with other senators. Hopefully, they'll be pre-filing similar, that's the plan, bill in the Senate. Thank you. I guess we can go to the next slide. A couple of areas that we also support in our economic justice supporting working families program is first expanding access to childcare so that working families can afford to live and work in Virginia. VICPP is part of the Virginia Promise Partnership, and we support different policy priorities to make sure that, first of all, the youngest of our members of society, babies up to 5 years old, can have access to early education. It's really pivotal years for their success later in life. And we support things like providing more funding so that there's no waiting list for families that qualify for childcare so that they can have access to quality and affordable care. Also, there's a couple of other bills that would create a formula so that the state can really be better prepared to predict the cost of childcare so that it could be expanded, made more available. And another area that we are not working in terms of a bill that we're leading on, but we are updating our child labor report. As you might remember, a couple of years ago, VICPP put out a report highlighting the rise of child labor violations in Virginia. We have a new batch of documents from a FOIA request from the Department of Labor and Industry, and we have been able to see that after increasing the fines through our advocacy efforts, there's still a lot of child labor law violations happening. So as soon as we update that report, we'll be sharing it. But we are monitoring and paying attention to any negative bills that could water down or weaken existing child labor laws. There's been trends nationally, some states that have weakened child labor law, and we're working with national partners to monitor those, including expanding, making it so that minors can work in occupations that are hazardous or could damage their health or learning abilities. So more to come on that front. So thank you.
Any other questions for Ramon on any of the bills that we're leading on, supporting? And again, if you think of questions, even after this moment, there'll be another moment for you to ask them. Thank you, Ramon. All right, I'm sorry, I'm fighting with my slides, Sheila. It's you, though. Here we go. There we go.
No worries. Hello, all. I'm Sheila Hurley Hennessy, Director of Faith Organizing at the ICPP, and also leading our work on housing policy. A little bit of context, you may recall that last year we were doing a bill called Faith in Housing. Well, that bill has come and gone, and it had 2 children. So this year, one of our main priorities is expediting affordable housing, which is a bill allowing localities to create a streamlined or automatic rezoning process for people who want to build affordable housing at increased density. Currently, when people go to rezone, which is necessary to build multifamily units, that process is filled with uncertainty and can take anywhere from 3 months to 3 years, which not only makes it harder to build any housing, but makes it a lot less compelling for folks who are interested in increasing affordable housing supply to actually do so. So this bill gives localities a way to make that easier so that developers can build affordable housing in a predictable manner. Keisha, you are on mute, but that is a wonderful bill, and that's the enabling version of the bill. It allows local governments to choose their own adventure. It applies to any developer. This, on the other hand, is a statewide by right bill. It automatically gives permission for any faith-based organization, I should actually say congregation or other property tax exempt nonprofit, permission to build multifamily affordable housing on land that they own. So, yes, in God's backyard gives automatic permission for a house of worship to build multifamily affordable housing, while expediting affordable housing allows localities to grant faster permission for any developer to build some kind of increased density. These are sister bills. They go together, but they each hit a different niche. These are the two bills we're leading on in affordable housing. We're going to move on to the supporting space now, unless folks have questions about seeing none. Here's the affordable housing bills we support. The ICPP is part of a coalition called the Allies for Housing Action, AHA. We have heard all the puns and we love them. Please pour them out. But AHA is really strong supporter of tenant protections. So that means helping reduce evictions by expanding the amount of time people have to pay and increasing the reach of the eviction reduction program. That means supporting renter rights, like giving tenants the capacity to sue their landlord or capacity to ask for fixes when there's mold in their walls. All of those fall under tenant protections, and I could talk your ear off about it, but that's enough for now. Second, of course, we want to see funding for housing and specifically for affordable housing. Again, this is in part in collaboration with our work with our friends at the Virginia Housing Alliance. So we'll be looking to increase money for Virginia's Housing Trust Fund, money to develop housing, and money for infrastructure and pre-development costs, as well as first-time homeownership. And additionally, that funding includes rental vouchers. You may have heard of the 5,000 Families program, looking to give vouchers for lower income families who qualify for federal vouchers but are sitting on a wait list. This would create a state voucher program for those families. Those are going to be our housing priorities. There's a lot happening, and I am happy to answer questions.
There is a question in the chat. Sheila, will you have copies of the booklet that you had last year that listed all the affordable housing being built by churches in the state at Day for All People?
Yes. We're running low. We have less than 50 left, but we will bring those copies. There is a digital version of that book, and I will throw that in the chat in just a moment. But yes, I will have copies of the book around Virginia congregations developing affordable housing at Day for All People.
Hey, Sheila. And again, if you all have any additional questions, even as we move on a little bit, just let us know. Just put it in the chat because we're watching the chat, and there'll be another moment at the end of our presentation where you can ask questions. This is another bill we just want to highlight for everyone that we're supporting. We've supported it in years past, and we are supporting it this coming session. I'm including it in the deck, even as a supporting bill and giving it its own slide, because as we're moving into this General Assembly, as we are feeling very hopeful about our bills progressing through the legislature and going into a new administration. We do recognize that because of the cuts that are happening on a federal level, it is impacting the money that we have to do the work that we need to do. And so we have to be even the more intentional about figuring out how do we raise revenue, because a lot of the bills that we talked to you about on tonight are going to take some funding in order to execute. And so this makes, again, that revenue generating even the more important. And so this is a bill, again, our partners at the Commonwealth Institute give leadership on, but we sit in coalition with them. And so this is the Fair Share Tax Policy, which establishes a fair share tax. And it's actually creating a new income bracket for people who have an annual taxable income that exceeds $1 million. I recently was sitting in a session about tax policy that was led by the Commonwealth Institute, and they were sharing figures that were blowing my mind. The fact that we have not established any new tax brackets in Virginia in over 30 years. And when you're looking at the higher tax bracket, I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe the income for someone who makes $17,000 all the way up. So someone making $17,000 a year and someone making $100,000 a year and $1 million a year are all paying the same tax rate. That just blows my mind. And so I'm like, we got to do more to educate ourselves about the importance of really leaning in and making this a priority. And so we are going to, again, support this bill. And you may have seen us advertising. We're actually going to do a session on tax policy that is going to be led by the Commonwealth Institute. And so if you want to learn more about tax policy in the Commonwealth and some of the other tax bills, that are coming up in this session, I invite you to sign up for this Tax Policy 101 session. You can either scan this QR code to register or you can click on the link in the chat. Come in with us, learn with us, because again, we need people of faith to bring their voices in the fight. Because again, we can generate more revenue if we just do a little bit of work of tweaking our current system. And again, having the wealthy and corporations pay their fair share. So this is really important work. And so we invite you to learn along with us as we continue to make this a priority. Other priorities that we support, you'll see listed here on this slide. Again, we continue to be on the front line of the immigration fight. And so we're looking at policies that will stop local police from collaborating in immigration enforcement. We're looking at possibly supporting a bill or leading on a bill preventing immigration raids in congregations. We're, as always, going to keep our eye on gun safety policy that's coming forward. And so we will bring our voice in on those fights on particular bills. And then we're also looking to protect access to food benefits like SNAP and WIC. And so you'll continue, please keep reading that weekly newsletter that comes out every week, because you will continue to see us share about different bills that we're supporting and leading on. And then we also want to invite you to join us. Well, I'm gonna pause for questions. I was gonna say day for all people, but let me pause for questions. We've given you all this great information about bills. So we want to know, does anybody have any additional questions that you've come up with? So you can put it in the chat. We're watching that. We see the chat. Yes, Nancy, I agree. Fair share tax is really important this year. Kevin, I see you said, I'm concerned about the environmental impact of the housing bills when you say no restrictions. Sheila, you want to speak to that?
I would be delighted. So, yes, I don't mean no restrictions. I apologize. That is probably what I said. The zoning restrictions that are currently in place mean that actually, I've recently learned it's more than I thought. In like 90% of land in Virginia, you are only allowed to build one single family home, which is the most expensive type of housing to build. And that increases prices across the board. So this gets around some zoning restrictions. However, you do still have to have site plan and land use restrictions. This will still require people to have tree cover and all of the various environmental impacts. Those guidelines and restrictions remain in place. it's interesting. There's some environmental folks in this housing coalition, in the Commonwealth Housing Coalition, who are excited about this because increasing density and making it easier to build multifamily affordable housing actually decreases sprawl and decreases environmental decreases transportation costs and pollution from that, as well as clear cutting forests just to develop single family subdivisions. So you are correct. It's not zero restrictions. It's getting around the zoning that has racist roots from the middle of the last century and really just focusing on the safety and environmental restrictions that matter.
Thank you so much, Sheila. I saw something else in the chat. Kay, I answered your question in the chat, but just so you all know, the drafts of the fact sheets are up now because we wanted to give you information about the bills that we're working on. A lot of the bills do not have bill numbers yet. And so as we're getting information on bill numbers and those patrons are getting finalized, those fact sheets will be updated. But we wanted to give you something to work with because we know people are starting to meet with their legislators. Ed, I see your question. Is anyone pushing second look legislation this year? I'm going to invite Kenneth to join me on this one. I know second look is definitely being talked about. The bill is coming back. I'm hearing. I haven't heard anything final on it yet, so I can't speak with any like certainty, but I am about 90% sure we're going to see this bill come up. Kenneth, have you heard anything about this one?
No, you said more than I would have said. It's definitely being talked about though. But yeah, but there's been no official announcement to say. We just have our fingers crossed, and I'm hearing positive things. So hopefully we'll hear something in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Kenneth. Okay, Ann says, could you say more about the immigration protection bills? Will there be fact sheets for the bills that you mentioned? Sheila, I'm gonna tag you in.
Why, yes, there will. The first immigrant protection bill that Keisha mentioned, which prevents local law enforcement from signing agreements to do immigration enforcement for the federal government, that is being led by the SEER, the Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights. I don't have a fact sheet on it yet, but we know that Delegate Lopez is patroning it in the House, and we're working on a Senate patron. The other bill, which is protecting religious freedom and denying, saying that local law enforcement cannot do civil law enforcement, including immigration raids, within houses of worship. That bill is still in flux. We don't yet have patrons, but I do have a fact sheet on it. And yes, the website will be updated with both of those bills and additional information, just not today. But I will get that up soon.
Stay tuned for more information. I see, Tim, you were saying Miss Batten has been replaced. When can we officially contact a replacement? I heard today that the new legislators' information is on the General Assembly website. And so you should be able to find those new delegates that have been voted in, their email addresses. So if you go to the website that I shared earlier, you'll be able to get that contact information and you can reach out to them. Any other questions? Well, we're all available by email. So if you need to email us, please don't hesitate to do so. Staff, if you can see if I've missed any other questions in the chat, I try to scroll through to make sure I didn't miss anything. But as we are wrapping up, again, I'm going to highlight Advocacy 101. So if you want to dig more into some of the tools, learn more about the process, particularly if this is one of your first years interacting with the General Assembly on the state level, please sign up for this session. We would love to have you. Again, that's on December 18th at 6 o'clock. And we want to invite you to Day for All People. So this will be an opportunity for you to meet with your legislators. It's also an opportunity for you to network with people of faith and goodwill from all around the Commonwealth. Last year, we had almost 450 people. And so we're planning for that number this year. And so we're actually going to cap the number at 450. And so don't wait to register, because if we get to 450, we're going to cut it so that it continues to be a meaningful, effective event for all those who come. We know that sometimes those elevator lines get backed up and those security lines get backed up. And so we've done some different things with the schedule this year to try to alleviate that. But we want to invite you to come out. So please, you can either scan this QR code, you can click on the link in the chat. Please sign up. There are buses coming from several different regions across the Commonwealth. The bus is not an additional cost. You just have to sign up when you register. So we would love to see you there with us. And then if you have a college student in your life or somebody who is about to go to college, we want them to come and be involved with us at Student Day of Action. That's on February 12th. Again, Day for All People, Student Day of Action will both be held at Centenary United Methodist Church in Richmond. And we again would love to have all the people that we can hold and provide quality program for. So again, that we can give you the resources and the tools to be stronger advocates in this fight for justice here in Virginia. And so again, the link is in the chat, or you can scan this QR code. But we're just so very, very grateful that you all have decided to join us on this evening. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. Hey, everybody. It's so good to see everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to hang out with us, to learn about our policy priorities, some of the bills that we're supporting. We cannot do this work without your help and your voice and your support. So thank you so much for all that you do. My fund developer would be mad at me if I did not say today is Giving Tuesday. And so if you haven't supported us already with a donation, we would love to have your support, because it helps us to be able to expand the work that we do. So